vital behaviors, personal development. And I think it's fantastic that you're all inside. Here we are in Vegas. It's like a super uber playground out there. And you all are in here taking care of business. You obviously are committed. And what you're about to witness is personal development personified. I've read everything this guy has written. It is outstanding information. Named one of the top 21 speakers for the 21st century by Successful Meeting magazine, Seth Godin is a best-selling author, businessman, and marketing pioneer. He's written 14 books that have been translated into more than 36 languages. I didn't even know there were that many languages. I think they made up a couple languages just to translate them into that. Every one of his books has been a bestseller. He writes about the post-industrial revolution, the way ideas spread, marketing, quitting, leadership, and most of all, changing everything. Seth Godin has also founded several companies, including Yoyodyne, which is pioneered permission marketing, and Squidoo, which is among the 100 most visited websites in the United States. Find his blog by typing Seth into Google. But get his information right now by paying attention and welcoming to the stage, Seth Godin.
About 3 months ago, one of my heroes died, Levon Helm. It got me thinking a little bit about revolutions and a lot about the music business. I know you're not in the music business, but bear with me for a second. I don't know if you've ever seen one of these before. This is called a record album. The music industry used to be perfect. It was perfect for a whole bunch of reasons. If I liked a record, I would listen to it a lot, and I'd wear it out and have to buy another one. And if I liked it a real lot, I'd loan it to you, and then I wouldn't have it anymore, so I'd have to go buy another one. And on my way to buying another one at the store, a store the record industry didn't have to pay for, I'd turn on the radio, right? And the radio, which is the spectrum that belongs to all of us, would be filled with the stuff that the music industry makes, so I would buy more when I was at the record store. And then on my way home from the record store, I'd open my mailbox and there would be Rolling Stone magazine that the industry didn't pay for promoting it. I'd turn on MTV and on and on and on. And then, like all revolutions, this industry went from perfect to impossible. That in just 5 years, every record ever recorded is available to anyone, anywhere, basically for free. In just 5 years, more musicians making more music for more people for free, and the music industry, gone. That's what revolutions do. What revolutions do is they destroy the perfect, and then they enable the impossible. And if you look around this room, of some of the most enthusiastic, best looking, and certainly most fit people I have ever seen, you see that there's a revolution going on here too. That this is impossible. It's impossible that you're all here in Las Vegas. It's impossible that this exists. It couldn't have happened before now. That when we think about how we got here, when we think about this model of where people find out about stuff, and how they find out about stuff, and how they decide to go forward, everything is changing. And in order to get our arms around that, we got to take a couple minutes to decide, figure out, and understand what it used to be. So we start with this woman, the patron saint of marketing, Betty Crocker. Now, she's not real. She doesn't get any older. She just keeps changing her hairstyle. But what Betty Crocker represents is this. In 1932, General Mills bought 30 minutes of radio airtime and put an actress on the air. And she said, "Hi, I'm Betty Crocker." And for half an hour, she answered reader mail. And that show became so popular that General Mills had to hire 250 women, taught them all how to sign Betty Crocker's name, to answer all the email that was coming in, all the real mail that was coming in General Mills headquarters. That was a little bit ahead of the time. And they ended up building a $1 billion plus brand by interrupting people. And what that taught marketers everywhere is you should run ads, preferably with babies in them, right? And then if you run enough ads and interrupt enough people, and if you don't have babies, you can use doctors, right? If you don't have doctors, you can use make-believe doctors. But the point is, if you run enough ads and interrupt enough people, you can make enough money to run more ads. And so just about everything you own, just about every brand you are familiar with, just about every organization in our culture exists because somebody put the money out there to buy attention, sometimes with unfortunate results. But in general, the model is simple. Make a lot of noise, interrupt a lot of strangers, and maybe they'll send you some money. Well, it got out of hand. I don't know if any of you grew up with comic books, but you may know about the sea monkeys. Now, some guy invents sea monkeys, which if you've never seen them, are little tiny invisible brine shrimp in a packet of seeds, and says to the marketing guy, here's a whole bunch of money, please go interrupt all these kids, and maybe we can get them to buy something. And so the model evolved, which is make a lousy product and put really cool ads on the outside, because ads work. And if we can do it more and more and more, you know what we'll get? We'll get more. And that's what most companies want. More attention, more sales, more money, and more profit. So let me show you with a quick little graph how that works. In 1946, a guy named Charles Revson, who had a little tiny company called Revlon, bought some TV ads. Those TV ads were the first time a cosmetics company had ever advertised nationwide. Well, guess what that did? It got him noticed. It got him in drugstores all around the country. Suddenly, Revlon was everywhere. And that distribution led to more sales. Those sales led to profits. And then Charles Revson did something brilliant. He bought more TV ads. And around and around and around it went. That every business that you know of hired a bunch of salespeople, hired a bunch of marketing people, hired a bunch of advertising, and they made enough money to do it more. Which leads to this. Average products for average people, except for maybe Pop-Tarts on an off day. The point is, if you want to reach everybody, you better make something everybody wants to buy. Average stuff for average people. They call it mass marketing for a reason. It's about marketing to the masses, and the masses are average. And it worked for 80 years. For 80 years, it made us rich. For 80 years, our economy was based on this. And then, really suddenly, it starts to fall apart. The first problem is clutter. Typical supermarket has 30,000 items in it, with 17,000 new ones every year. Problem number two is the number of places you can yell about your product went up. Growing up in Buffalo, New York, we had channel 2, 4, 7, and 29 for Ultraman. You guys know about Ultraman. Now, there's, 500 channels on cable, 300 channels on XM, 1 billion channels on the internet. You don't have a prayer of interrupting all the people you want to interrupt. You can no longer own the conversation. So this notion, you're going to find some poor schmo who you decide needs you, and then you're going to assault them over and over and over again with ads until one day they give up and buy from you, is it going to work? I want to tell you what happened to me on the plane this morning flying in. Get up from my seat, it's a 4.5-hour long flight. Go to the bathroom. On my way back, the flight attendant says, come here. Right? Federal regulations require that you listen to the orders of a flight crew. So I go over into the galley, and in the galley, the flight attendant has laid out a selection of greeting cards that she has handmade that are for sale on the plane. Now, I don't know about you, but if you're going to spend 3.5 more hours on a flight with somebody, you're going to buy the car. But I got to tell you, didn't make me happy. Because that just wasn't okay, right? We all understand it's not okay. That what the public has said to us is back off. I don't want you in my face just because you can be in my face. Just because you can buy an ad doesn't mean you should buy an ad. Just because you can knock on my door or call me at home during dinner doesn't mean it's okay. And we don't want to hear from candidates, and we don't want to hear from car dealers, and and we don't want to hear from flight attendants at 30,000 feet, right? Now, 50 years ago, when the remote control came out, marketers freaked out. They said people are going to change the channel, no one will pay attention. They were wrong. And that's why Mad Men worked. Not because he slept around a lot. It worked because it didn't matter if the ads were good. It just mattered that you ran a lot of them. So the remote control didn't kill everything. But I gotta tell you, this did. That we have crossed a line here, and there's a warning for everyone to understand. And the warning is simple. You're not going to grow the way you want to grow by yelling at people and interrupting them when they don't want to hear from you, right? We'll have a meeting later to explain some of these slides if you don't get them as I'm going. So now we can take a minute now and say, this is bad news. We don't like this. It's not fair, right? We can just say, and we believe in what we're making. How dare you take away our opportunity to yell at people? But I am here to talk about a fundamentally different way of thinking about the world. It starts with this. My wife has transportation narcolepsy, which is a fictional disease she got shortly after we got married. Now, I know it's fictional because she doesn't get it when there's a really good movie on the plane. But the rest of the time, if the vehicle is moving, she's asleep. So we planned a trip to France. And the kids were really little. And we missed a flight and we missed a connection. And for 17 hours, my kids have been making a ruckus. And for 17 hours, my wife has been asleep. And we're driving through rural France that's beautiful, and there's, the hills and the grass and everything. And we're driving through a pasture, and I notice, finally, it's quiet in the back seat. And I figure, the kids have finally fallen asleep. And I look in the rearview mirror, they're not asleep. They're staring out the window at this perfect specimen of a cow for about 4 seconds. And then they went back to making a ruckus. You know why? Because cows are boring. You've seen 5 cows, 10 cows, 100 cows, they're all the same. Even if you're from Minnesota, cows are boring. But what if there had been a purple cow in that field? A real honest-to-goodness purple cow. I'll tell you what would have happened. I would have pulled over. My wife would have woken up. What's going on? She would have gotten out the camera, taking pictures of the cow to show her friends. I would have gotten on the phone, called my friends back home to tell them that we were looking at a purple cow. And my kids would have ignored me as usual, open the door, run across the street, jump over the fence, and run over to the cow and rub it. So that when they went to show and tell in 2 weeks, they could tell people they had seen and touched a purple cow. So what's a purple cow? Purple cow means one thing, remarkable. And what does remarkable mean? Remarkable means worth making a remark about. So think this through. If you have something in the world that is remarkable, people tell each other. The spam filters don't matter. The noise doesn't matter. The remote control doesn't matter. Because people are talking to people. Because they are talking to each other because they choose to talk to each other. And every single person in this room has experienced what happens when they talk about you. And then we've got to realize that this isn't just a little sideline. This is the new thing. This is it. This is the next thing. Let me give you an example from an industry that you're not in, which is the fashion business. A little company started 8 years ago called Little Mismatch. And they decided to make socks. Now the sock business is a lousy business because you get them made cheap in China, you fly them to Bentonville, Arkansas, Walmart sells them even cheaper, you make a couple bucks and you're done. That's not what these guys did. They decided to make socks for 12-year-old girls. But not all 12-year-old girls, just 12-year-old girls with a fashion problem. And their fashion problem is these girls do not have enough to talk about during recess. And so, they're looking for the next thing. So, Little Mismatch comes out with these socks, 133 styles. For 10 bucks, you get 3 socks. Not 2, 3. and none of them match. And so what happens is, the girl goes to her friends in recess and says, "Want to see my socks? Want to see my socks?" And then the girls go home and they say to their mom, "I need new socks." And so the word spreads. Now this sounds like a stupid gimmick. They did $1 million in revenue in their first year. Last year, they did $40 million in revenue, selling socks that don't match to 12-year-old girls and me. The point is that the conversation is worth a great deal. And the hoops you go through to make the conversation happen are effective and cheaper than interrupting people who don't want to hear from you. And if you're good, and if you're fortunate, and if the offering is right, then you earn, you don't get, you don't take, you earn permission. The privilege of talking to people who want to hear from you, not the right. The ability to deliver anticipated, personal, and relevant messages to people who want to get them. Let me give you my definition of permission marketing. If you don't send out that email blast, I hate that word, if you don't send out that email blast next week, how many people on the list will write to you and complain? Where is it? Because if you're not missed, then you don't have permission. But if you have permission, if you have earned the privilege of showing up the way Jay Leno did, or the way Saturday Evening Post did, or the way someone who has a popular blog does, then that asset, that ability to whisper to people who want to hear from you becomes precious. All right, so let's go back in history again. The first revolution, none of us were around, 1800, the revolution of cheap energy. We dug stuff out of the ground and we were able to burn it to make things work better. We made a lot of productivity as a result of that. That led to the second industrial revolution, the revolution of the factory. Using machines, we could make stuff at prices no one had ever seen before. You could buy a t-shirt for $3 that used to cost, in the same currency, $50 to make. Machines made things work. That led to the revolution of 1950, which is once your factory is up and running, you need to interrupt a lot of people. So that's why we invented TV. Understand, we did not invent television ads to make TV work. We invented TV to make television ads work. Then the internet comes along. And the internet is the first medium not invented for advertisers. It was not invented to help you sell stuff. It was invented because it's about connecting people. That's what the internet is good at. That if you look at everything that has succeeded on the internet, it's about connecting people. What they didn't expect is that when they built it to help survive nuclear war at DARPA in 1968, what they didn't expect is that it would fuel the rise of tribes. Tribes are groups of people who share a culture, who share a language, who share energy, who share a goal, who keep track of each other. We only used to have 3 tribes in our lives: a spiritual tribe, a work tribe, and a community tribe. Excuse me. But now, thanks to the ability to connect weird people who want to talk to each other, you've got people like the Red Hat ladies in hundreds of cities around the world. They get together in their outfits and get uppity and they enjoy themselves. Or the Red Hat guys, the triathletes who fly to Hawaii for $10,000. Hey, they don't even like the swimming parts. So what are they doing it for? Is it that they can't bike at home? Can't run at home? No, they go because the other people are there too. Right? Or these Red Hat guys who train all year long for the big day. Right? Or these White Hat guys who have their own culture. Here's the thing. People like being part of a community. They like being in sync. I know you're very competitive, so I'm going to challenge you here to follow the instructions on the next slide. I'm going to time you, and go. Okay, stop. You made me nervous at the beginning, but then you figured it out. You got into rhythm. How did you know at which rhythm to clap? Who stood up and said, like this? Nobody. I made no eye contact. Some groups clap slowly. Some groups clap fast. One group took 27 seconds to get in sync. I was sweating bullets. But everybody I have ever tried this with has figured it out. How do we do that? We do it because people like doing what other people are doing. That's why fashion works. That's why culture works. That's why Beachbody works. Is that people look around them and want to get in sync with their tribe. And what these tribes want is for a leader to connect them, for someone to create a culture, for communication to happen, for there to be a challenge for where they go next, for the communication to be clear, and most of all, for the person who's leading to commit. And this notion that everyone is lonely, that everyone wants to be more connected, that everyone worries about being in sync, is vitally important to what it means to be a person. And what we're seeing is that it's not just the local religion, not just the local 4-H club, but now our economy is starting to understand that being in sync is so vitally important. Now, Nike invented their tribe. Before there was Nike, there weren't all those skinny guys running too many miles every day and then eating spaghetti. They built that tribe. The Beatles, on the other hand, did not invent teenagers. They just showed up to lead them. Bob Marley did not invent the Rastafarians. He just showed up to lead them. There are people in your life, people in your community, who are predisposed to be in your tribe, and they are waiting for someone to stand up and say, follow me. But if we think about mass marketing, that feels strange. Here's why. I don't know how many of you study statistics. This graph is called the normal distribution. It's a bell curve. Statisticians invented that word normal, and then the rest of us invented the word weird to describe people who weren't normal. So if you're going to sell DVD players, you want them on the shelves at Target and Best Buy, because that's where the normal people go to buy an $80 DVD player. That if you are Heinz Ketchup, you want to be in the middle of the market, because that's where everyone is. And if you're going to buy TV ads, if you want 10 million Facebook followers, if you want to make a big kerfuffle, you better be in the middle, where the normal people are. But guess what, folks? The internet is breaking this too. Because now the curve is melting. Now, suddenly, for the first time in history, there are more weird people on the outside than there are normal people on the inside. So, with all due respect, you guys are weird. And your job isn't to go find some normal people and convert them, because they're not listening. They like being normal. It's the other people who are on the fringes, and it's going to get weirder still. So let me give you an example. Let's say a buddy of yours gets you into fly fishing, right? You go to Dick's Sporting Goods, they sell 2 kinds of fly fishing rods. You're a high roller, so you buy the expensive one, right? That's it. You're very satisfied. Unless you type fly fishing into the Google. And if you do that, what you discover is there's thousands of fly fishing rods to choose from, and you're going to be left out if you don't have a left-handed, double bamboo, ultralight, made in Switzerland fly fishing. So suddenly you just got a lot weirder because you got pushed over here. And let's say you get a couple tattoos, and you think you're really hip, but then you go to the East Village, and you see people with 6 tattoos. Now you need more. Wait! You go online, there are people with 10,000 tattoos from the top to the bottom. So again, we're pushing you over here. So for every activity that we're able to be interested in, whether it's politics or fitness, people are going to the edges. Because the edges are where the remarkable stuff happens. The edges are when we talk about it. We don't talk about boring stuff. We don't talk about average stuff. We don't even talk about cheap stuff. We talk about stuff that matters to us. We talk about people. We don't talk about companies. We talk about people. People matter to us. All right, so let me shift gears one more time here. Do me a favor, if you can. Raise your right hand just as high as you possibly can. Okay, now raise it a little higher. Even this group. Even you guys. I was a little nervous that you would pwn me on that, but you didn't. How did that happen? I was really specific. You are really earnest. And yet, a little bit in reserve. Where did you learn that? You learned that when you were 3, and 4, and 7, and 12, from your parents, and your coach, and your teacher, and yes, from your boss. Because what you learned is if you put out everything, what are they going to say back? Give me a little bit more. If you put out everything, they change where the bar is, and they say, give me a little bit more. You know who invented this? Because it's new. Henry Ford invented this. Henry Ford, the most important person of the 20th century, without fear of error, invented this. And the reason he invented it is because he had no choice, after he invented the assembly line, but to do that. He went to the workers of Detroit, machinists. They're all men. He said, men, if you're a 50 cent a day man, if you are used to making 50 cents every day you go to work, I will pay you $5 a day to come work for me. A 10x raise in one day. The line out the door took 2 days to process. How could he afford to do it? It's simple. He put you on the assembly line and he measured what you did. And he said, as long as you are inside the factory, as long as you are a part of the assembly line, then everything will be fine. Because I will make $20 every day you work, so I'm happy to pay you $5. And it made us rich. And it industrialized America. Interchangeable parts, which we all take for granted. You go to the hardware store, you buy a nut, you buy a bolt, they're going to fit together. That was not true 120 years ago. 120 years ago, nothing was interchangeable. If your sewing machine broke, you had to hire someone to make you a new part. There were no replacement parts. That's what Henry Ford developed. He said, you can have any color car you want as long as it's black, for a reason. Not because he liked black. He said it because black paint dries 4 hours faster than any other color. And so he could run the assembly line a little bit faster and make another penny. But you know what happens after you invent interchangeable parts? You have to invent interchangeable people. Interchangeable people, because if Dolores doesn't show up, Trader Joe's doesn't shut down, they just have another cashier work on aisle 3. And if Gladys doesn't come to work at AT&T, they don't shut down the phone system, they just have somebody else fill that slot. And so we invented the org chart. And the org chart on the resume, you say, oh, that box right there, I can fit in that box. Here's my resume listing all the ways I've complied with all the famous brands you've all heard of. Can I please have that slot? Don't worry, if you don't like me, you can fire me or put someone else in the box. And so we said to the workers of the world, we will pay you, we will give you prizes and trinkets and treats. But you know what? You got to do what we say. And we said to the students of the world, learn to follow instructions. We invented public school for a very simple reason, to teach kids to work in the factory. Before that, the idea that you would spend 10, 12 hours doing what you're told was insane. So we had to train millions and millions of kids, and we still do, to follow orders, to do what they're told, right? And that's a problem, because the industrial economy, like the record industry, is broken. And it's probably never going to get fixed. There's really good news that I'm about to share with you, but let's understand something. The cyclical recession is over, but the permanent recession is never going to end, because we're giving up on this notion of average stuff for average people made cheap in quantity by compliant people and then paying the white-collar workers who manage them a lot, and replacing it with a totally different economy that you are on the vanguard of. 15,000 years ago, if you got hungry, the only choice you had was to go hunting. Then they invented farming just in time, or we would have starved. And farming worked out really well for 10,000 years. Then they invented jobs. They only invented jobs 200 years ago. This notion that you would leave the farm and go find the guy who owns the coal mine and say, I'd like to be a coal miner, is new. But no one left the farm and said, I'm going to start my own coal mine. You went and you got a job. You went and you looked for instructions. And that's causing a lot of stress now. So I think there's something really cool right here and right now. I call it art. Art is the work of a human being, acting like a human being and connecting with someone they care about. Art is using your judgment, not following the manual. Art is being real and present and generous with people in your community in a way that's unpredictable to them. Sure, this is art, right? And Jackson Pollock is art, and Joseph Beuys is art, and Bill Shakespeare is art. But we really understand art when we think about a guy named Marcel Duchamp. Marcel Duchamp was a Dadaist artist, and in a famous art exhibit, he put a urinal. The second guy to install a urinal was a plumber. And that's the giant distinction. That what makes it art is you're doing it for the first time. You're doing it with generosity, and you are doing it to connect. That Sgt. Pepper was clearly art because after it was made, people copied it. Because after it was made, it was an influence. Right? And if you copied it, no, that's just paint by numbers. Bay City Rollers, not art. Sgt. Pepper, art. And if you go to the Per Se restaurant in New York City, you're going to wait 2 months for a reservation. It's going to cost you $250 to get in. And you're going to get fewer calories than you would get at McDonald's for $8. So why go? You're going because a human made that meal. And because a human designed that bowl. And because a human served you and made a connection and made it a once-in-a-lifetime experience that, yes, is remarkable and you will talk about. And that receptionist in your day job, right, the one that they haven't fired yet and replaced with a voicemail system, why does he or she still work there? Because the connection they make to the person who calls, because the sincerity that they bring to their work every day makes them worth keeping. This isn't about painting. There's a village in China called Dafan where they paint 1/3 of all the oil paintings in the world. Every day, the workers in Dafan get up and paint the same painting over and over and over again as fast as they possibly can. You can buy the Mona Lisa in Dafan for $29. And it's not even worth $29 because it's just a copy. So if you're looking around wondering who to copy, and if you're saying, what's the proven success formula? Show me the map of how I get from there to there. I'm going to say, look, there is no map, right? There isn't any map at all, even a fictional one, because if there was, it wouldn't be art anymore. It would just be paint by numbers. This is really hard for anyone who's been through school, right? This is a real book that teaches people step by step how to raise invisible sheep on Facebook. We're all looking for the step-by-step instructions, except for the people in your tribe. They're looking for something called authenticity instead. Here's the thing, I don't care where you work. If all you are is competent, if all you are is obedient, there is no longer a good job left for you. I have a couple of collections of digital photos to share with you today. One of them is my collection, probably the largest in the world, of digital photos of cafeteria ladies. Some of them have really cool outfits, but this is the really sad one because they're prison cafeteria ladies. Now, their customers don't like them, their bosses don't treat them well, the uniforms are horrible, and the pay is no good. And yet there is no shortage of prison cafeteria ladies. There's still a line out the door for this horrible job because it's all the competent can find. That if someone can write down step by step what you need to do, the internet's going to find someone cheaper than you to do it. Some of you have seen this video on YouTube of the Free Hugs movement, right? This guy's really annoyed because he worked hard to make expensive hugs. He earned the right to make expensive hugs, and then these Free Hugs guys came in and totally undercut him. Unfair. So how do you avoid this? How do you avoid going from where you are to becoming irrelevant? Well, the first thing you got to do is stop bowling. Now, the thing to understand about bowling is it's boring to watch because everyone who bowls is trying to be perfect. And all you're seeing over and over and over again is this attempt at perfect. Just like the bottled water guys. Like, what are they going to do? Make it wetter? Right? When you go to buy a bottle of water, you just buy the close one or the cheap one. I mean, they tried, but it didn't work very well. So, you know, this is a 180-page magazine filled with ads and articles about water. And it's all the same because it tries to be all the same. Think about all the categories you buy stuff in. They're all saying we're just like everybody else but a nickel cheaper. We're just like everybody else but endorsed by this actor. We're just like everybody else but a little shinier. You can't do that and have it work. right? I mean, Coke Japan tried to make this product water salad, but that is another story I don't want to go into today. You can talk to me afterwards. The point is, you can't be silly and stupid for silliness' sake. That people are too smart for that today. Which leads to this notion of what it means to be smart. I sat down with 5 straight A students last year. A 10-year-old, an 11-year-old, a 12-year-old, 11-year-old, and I think another 11-year-old. And I had with me my Taiwanese perpetual motion machine drinking bird. You all carry one with you, I hope. And if you've never seen it before, what it does is it just dips over and over again. It drinks forever, right? So I set it up for these kids, and I said, guys, how's it work? That's all I said, 3 words. How's it work? And after 10 seconds, they looked up to me, and they said, Seth, we don't know. Tell us. Ready to write down the answer. I said, guys, I know where to find the answer. Wikipedia has the answer to everything. No one will ever hire you ever again because you once wrote down the answer in a notebook. That they are teaching you at school how to memorize answers as opposed to figure out answers. Right? And for those of you who are interested in this, I wrote a free manifesto called Stop Stealing Dreams. You can read it at stopstealingdreams.com, all about what's broken about school. If you send it to every teacher you know, we might be able to make an impact. But, I'm a little off the topic here. What I said to them is, figure it out. And it took them 20 minutes. They were really uncomfortable. No one had ever asked them to figure something out before. Because figuring something out means you're gonna be wrong before you're right. And we need to learn how to do that better. And you need to learn how to do that better because that's how you lead. When the internet came along, it didn't say, I am Dick Clark, I will pick you to be famous. I am Oprah Winfrey, I will pick you to be on my show. The internet said, here's a microphone, pick yourself. Not pick yourself to spam strangers. Pick yourself because we built all these tools that make it easy to lead. We built all these tools that make it easy for you to show up and be generous. And then when you lead, and when you show up, and when you're generous, people will choose to follow you. But to do that, you have to do something really difficult. You have to innovate. You have to be remarkable. You have to be new. Now, some people say, that's great, but what I'm doing is too important. Times are too tough. Failure is not an option. Anyone who says that has just announced that neither is success. That what happens is really simple. The only way you innovate is by failing with commitment until you succeed. To put it another way, the guy who invented the ship also invented the shipwreck. And you've got to decide if you're up for that or not. Let me tell you just how difficult it is. Daniel Ellsberg, before he was famous for other reasons, invented this brilliant thought experiment. Right here is a bucket, invisible, with 100 billiard balls in it. 50 red, what color are they? And 50 black. 50-50. Over here is another bucket with 100 billiard balls in it. Some are red, some are black. I don't know what the distribution is. Got it? This is unknown, there's still 100. This is 50-50. And I say to that person in the 10th row, I have $100 if you come up here and pick a red ball. You don't get to look inside because it's invisible. Which bucket are you going to choose from? 50-50 or I don't know the odds? How many people want to pick from the 50-50 bucket for $100? Raise your hand. How many people have never raised their hand before in a meeting? How many people want to pick from the random bucket? Raise your hand. Turns out, it's exactly the same odds. But most people, when they tell the truth, will pick the 50-50 bucket. Because they're saying in the back of their head, oh, with my luck, that one will only have 1 red ball in it. At least here, I know I got a 50-50 shot. But in fact, the odds are exactly the same. This goes back to what it means to be a wild animal. Wild animals are really concerned about survival, right? Because they only get 1 chance and then they're dead. That's why they invented the black bear. The black bear. What's the point of the BlackBerry? I'll tell you what the point is, so you can check to make sure everything's okay. That you get one, and you look at it and go, oh good, everything's still okay, and you go back to watching the soccer match. And then 25 minutes later, you say, oh, I wonder if everything's still okay. Yup, everything's still okay. And then the next thing you know, the leader of the free world is just checking to make sure everything is still okay. Now what we are very concerned about is not failure. And we were taught not to fail. Henry Ford, our parents, our teachers, our bosses taught us not to fail. They taught us to make sure everything's okay. You know why we bought it? Because the heckler, that voice in the back of our head, the one that says that alligators going to eat us, or we're going to fall off a cliff, or a shark is going to land on our house. Right? That voice, the voice of the werewolf about to eat us, the lizard brain, that's what psychologists call it. It's that voice right back here. It comes from our amygdala. It's an actual part of your brain. It's the same brain the lizard has, the same brain the wolf has. It is the brain that makes you a wild animal. That brain is responsible for revenge, anger, and reproduction, and safety, and that's it. And when it's activated, we lose everything. So you're on a plane, you're typing a really important memo, it hits turbulence. Do you keep typing, or do you put the laptop down and use all your forces of concentration to keep the plane aloft? What would they have done if you hadn't been on that flight to use your concentration to keep the plane aloft? Steve Pressfield calls it the voice of the resistance. The resistance is responsible for writer's block. The resistance is responsible for you changing your outfit 3 times before you go on a blind date. The resistance is the voice that freaks out when you see your boss's phone number on your caller ID, right? That it used to be really useful. The lizard brain saved our lives when we lived in a village and there were saber-toothed tigers out there, right? It saved our lives when we were in a world where everyone had a sword and if you said the wrong thing, you would be beheaded. Now, of course, if you go to a baseball game, this is one of my other collections of photos, and a bat is flying towards you in the stands, from the stands. Hold on. This is, oh, there we go. Sorry. And a bat's flying towards you in the stands. It can protect you from having your teeth fall out. But that's about its only useful function now. The rest of the time, it makes you act like a sheep. That the rest of the time, here's the internet, it's been around for 15 years. Here's all these chances to leave. Here's all these great products. Here's all this great stuff to bring to the world. And that voice in the back of your head says, that's not going to work. They're going to make fun of me. They're going to realize I'm a fraud. I have no right to stand up and lead. Who am I? No one picked me. And so, we're stuck. And the economy doesn't make it easy. My friend Melissa says, look, just because there's less water in the ocean, just because the tide is out, doesn't mean there's less water in the ocean. Yeah, the tide is out. That's because we're in the middle of a revolution. The tide is out because the industrial economy is ending. But the water is in a different place. The water is flowing really fast to the place of personal leadership and personal connection and art. The teacher Chögyam Trungpa Rinpoche told a story about being in Tibet. He was there with 2 much younger Buddhist monks, and they went to visit a monastery. And to get to the monastery, they had to pass by a graveyard. And chained to the front of the graveyard was this angry, ferocious junkyard dog. Pulling and pulling. Well, they got about 30 feet away, and the chain broke. And the dog ran right at them, howling. Well, the 2 younger ones stopped being Buddhists and ran like hell. Leaving Rinpoche standing right there. And he said, I did the only thing I knew to do. He looked the dog in the eye and ran right at him. And the dog was so freaked out by this, it put its tail between its legs and it ran away. That what we're learning over and over again with every single example, every organization, every individual that has managed to make an impact is this. You only have 2 choices. You're either going to stand up or you're going to fit in. You're either going to stand up and be noticed and own it and take responsibility, or you're going to hide behind the rule book and the organization and your own lizard brain. Those are the only two choices. But if you choose to make this art, if you choose to do this leadership, you have to be very careful not to end up like a flight attendant somewhere over Kansas. That in fact, art has a fundamental distinction from commerce, and it's this: you must give a gift. You can look at a Pablo Picasso painting without paying him. You can listen to a Beatles song without paying them. You can benefit from the smile of somebody who holds a door for you without tipping them. That in fact, we are not talking about favors. I will take you out and pay for the golf round if you buy something from me. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the emotional connection that tribe leadership creates because of gifts. And what we learned from Lewis Hyde and his brilliant book, The Gift, is this. There was a law against charging interest, but only against people in your tribe. People in your tribe would borrow money to make their farm go better, and of course you wouldn't charge them interest because they were in the tribe. You were together. Outsiders you could charge as much as you wanted because they were outsiders. But insiders needed to be closer together. How many of you have a warm relationship with the bank that has the mortgage on your house? Nobody. Because that's a business transaction. Even Stephen, nothing owed. But a gift from here, a gift from the Creator who can't help but share it, brings people together. There's a coffee shop in London called Proofrock, higher end than Starbucks. And he has one of those frequent buyer cards where they give you the little punches, and if you get enough punches, you get a free coffee. But it's not 8 coffees with him. He listed his 8 biggest competitors on the card. He said, go to my 8 biggest competitors, have their coffee, and then if you still want to come back, I'll give you a free one. Do you think that Mr. Proofrock picked up the phone and called his competition and said, is it okay if I list you? Will you list me? Of course not. He just listed them because he cares more about coffee than he cares about keeping this customer in the dark. I drove into a little village a couple months ago to meet somebody for dinner, and I was a little lost, and I wanted to bring flowers or a card or something. And I walked in to this shop, and I said, do you have yellow carnations, because it's this person's favorite? They said, no. I said, do you know anyone else in town who sells them? They said, no. Really? Really? You don't know of any other floral shop, and you're a florist? Or are you saying no because you hope I'll say, oh, well, since you're saying no, I'll just buy something else from you. So what they did was they pushed me away. They pushed me away hoping to make a quick sale, as opposed to bringing me in, walking me down the street, introducing me to their competitor, or taking me to the card shop instead, so that when I went to dinner with my friend, I'd have something to say about them. Right? But our capitalistic, scarcity-based culture doesn't make it easy to do that. But guess what? The stuff that used to be scarce is now abundant. What's scarce is trust. What's scarce is attention. What's scarce is permission. People who trust you because something happened in your life, and they're going to believe you when you talk to them about how it worked. And this notion of generosity, you don't do it so you'll get paid back later. You do it because it's the only way to do art. The only way to do leadership is to just leave and not charge admission at the door. So I went to see Lee Van Helm shortly before he died in a theater probably the size of the floor here. And I don't know how, I was really lucky. I was in the front row. And just before he went on, I look up, and on keyboards, Donald Fagen from Steely Dan. Now I got an MBA, and I'm saying to myself, how much did Lee Van Helm have to pay Donald Fagen on a Saturday night to come to this little dinky Tarrytown music hall to play keyboards? Because there's not a lot of people here. How could he pay him? And I went, idiot. Sometimes I talk to myself like that. He didn't pay him anything. Because Donald Fagen is like the guy at the farmer's market at the end of the day. He doesn't give away the carrots are going to go rotten. If he doesn't play this Saturday night, he doesn't get this Saturday night back ever. This is it. And he would rather play than not play. He's happy to get paid, but he's even happier to give. he's even happier to be able to share this gift he's had his whole life. So the question I would ask, whether it's at this work or whatever work you do, is this. This notion that we have to yell to be heard is backwards. What we have to do is whisper to be heard. We have to be the person